Captain Alex Mercer had always dreamed of exploring new worlds, but he never imagined his first solo mission would lead him to a place so strange and dangerous. His spaceship, the Odyssey, was meant for peaceful exploration, but something had gone terribly wrong. A sudden meteor storm struck, and before Alex could react, his ship was torn apart, its hull shaking and sparks flying as it crashed toward an unknown planet. As the ship hit the surface with a deafening crash, Alex's world went black. When he finally opened his eyes, his head throbbed with pain and his body felt heavy. He groaned and tried to move, but everything was spinning. The control panel had exploded, the fire still smoldering inside the ship. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. The crash had been brutal, but he had survived. That was the first thing he needed to remember. He was alive. Alex carefully climbed out of the wreckage, pushing away the broken pieces of metal. His boots sank into the soft, mossy ground as he looked around. The sky above was a strange shade of purple, unlike anything he had ever seen. The air smelled fresh, almost sweet, like a forest after rain. The planet, although beautiful, felt foreign to him. He had no idea where he was, or if anyone else was out there. His heart raced as he checked his equipment. His communications device was fried, and the small personal computer was useless. He couldn't call for help. He was alone. Despite the shock, Alex quickly snapped into survival mode. He gathered his strength and surveyed his surroundings. The dense jungle stretched in every direction, with towering trees and thick vines hanging low. There were no signs of civilization, no roads, no buildings, just the wild, untouched beauty of the planet. It was peaceful, in a way, but it felt dangerous too. Something about this place made Alex uneasy. With no other choice, he started walking. His best hope was to find shelter, food, and maybe some way to communicate with Earth. But the more he walked, the stranger the planet became. The trees had a metallic sheen to their bark, and the plants glowed faintly in the darkening light. It felt as though he was being watched. As Alex ventured deeper into the jungle, he heard sounds, soft whispers, like the wind rustling through the leaves, but they felt too rhythmic, too deliberate. He froze in his tracks, listening carefully. His instincts kicked in. Something was moving out there. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from behind him. He spun around, his heart racing, but there was nothing there. A chill ran down his spine. Whatever was out there was keeping its distance, watching him. Alex had been on many dangerous planets, but he had never felt so exposed. He continued walking, his senses on high alert. After a few hours, he stumbled upon a clearing. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the landscape. In the center of the clearing was a large, circular structure made of stone. It looked ancient, its surface worn and cracked, as if it had stood there for centuries. Alex approached cautiously, his curiosity growing. Maybe there was someone here. Maybe they could help him. As he neared the structure, he heard something. Soft footsteps. Then, a figure appeared in the shadows. At first, Alex thought it was a mirage, his mind playing tricks on him. But no, it was real. A woman, tall and elegant, stepped into the clearing. She had long, dark hair that shimmered in the fading sunlight, and her skin glowed with an ethereal beauty. She looked human, but there was something unmistakably alien about her. Her eyes were large and almond-shaped, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. Alex's breath caught in his throat. She was stunning, but there was a strange, dangerous energy about her. She didn't speak, but her gaze was intense. It was as though she could see right through him, studying him with a quiet curiosity. Alex took a step forward, unsure what to do. He wasn't sure if she was friend or foe, but he had no other options. Before he could say anything, a group of other women appeared behind her, emerging from the jungle like shadows. They were all beautiful, with similar features, sharp eyes, elegant movements, and an aura of mystery. They surrounded him silently, their eyes fixed on him with growing interest. It was clear that these women were not afraid of him, but there was no sign of welcome either. Alex's heart raced as he realized that he was completely outnumbered. He wasn't sure what to expect from these strangers, but one thing was certain: he wasn't alone on this strange planet. And these women, whoever they were, had already taken notice of him. His mind raced with questions. Who were they? Where had they come from? And most importantly, could they help him get off this planet? As the women closed in, Alex knew one thing for sure: his journey on this alien world was only just beginning. Alex stood frozen, unsure what to make of the women who surrounded him. The leader, the one with the dark hair and glowing eyes, was the closest. Her gaze was sharp, as though she could read his every thought. He cleared his throat, trying to calm his nerves. "Hello," Alex called out, his voice hesitant. "I don't mean any harm. My ship, it crashed. I need help." The woman didn't speak, but her expression softened slightly. She took a step closer, and the other women followed suit, moving in a fluid, synchronized motion. Alex's heart raced. He didn't know if they were friendly or if they were about to attack. But the way they moved, so gracefully, without any sign of aggression, made him hold back his fear. The woman in the front raised a hand, signaling the others to stop. She gestured for Alex to stay where he was, her movements slow and deliberate. He stood still, watching her every motion, trying to figure out what was happening. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the woman spoke in a language Alex didn't understand. Her voice was smooth, melodic, but the words were foreign to him. It was clear that she was trying to communicate, but neither of them had a common language. Alex had no way of knowing if she was trying to warn him or if she was simply greeting him. She stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his. Alex instinctively took a small step back, but the moment he did, one of the women behind him moved forward, blocking his retreat. He was surrounded. His survival instincts kicked in, but he knew there was nowhere to run. The leader continued speaking, her tone soft but firm. Then, without warning, she reached out and touched his arm. Alex flinched at the contact, but the woman didn't pull away. She gently traced the fabric of his suit, inspecting it curiously. For the first time, Alex noticed that her skin shimmered in the dim light, almost like it had a natural glow. Her touch was delicate, and her eyes seemed to study him as if trying to understand what he was. Alex found himself fascinated by her, despite the situation. There was something both beautiful and intimidating about her. She didn't seem angry, but she didn't seem friendly either. Alex couldn't tell if she was trying to communicate peace or if she saw him as an object of curiosity. Whatever it was, he was completely at her mercy. The women continued to examine him, murmuring in their unknown language. Alex felt helpless, like an animal being studied by curious researchers. He had no way of communicating, no way to explain his crash or his need for assistance, but there was something in their eyes that made him think they weren't going to harm him. At least, not yet. After what seemed like hours, the leader turned to one of the women, who stepped forward and extended a leather cord towards Alex. Attached to the cord was a small round object. Alex took it cautiously, unsure what it was. The woman nodded at him, gesturing for him to wear it. It looked like some kind of necklace or amulet. "Thank you," Alex said, still unsure if she could understand him. He put the object around his neck, but the women didn't react. Instead, they seemed more focused on him, watching for any change in his behavior. The leader, who seemed to be in charge, stepped back and signaled for the others to move away. One of the women handed Alex a strange metal spear-like object, which she indicated he should take with him. It was clear they were offering him tools, but Alex still had no idea why. Slowly, they led him through the jungle. Alex followed without resistance, unsure of what was happening, but knowing that arguing with them wouldn't help. As they walked, he took in his surroundings. The jungle was dense and full of strange, alien plants. He could hear distant animal calls, some high-pitched and others deep and growling. He was on a truly alien world, far from anything he had ever imagined. Finally, after a long journey through the thick jungle, they arrived at a clearing. In the center was a large, circular structure made of the same glowing stone Alex had seen earlier. It was unlike anything he had ever encountered, smooth, almost polished, with strange symbols carved into its surface. The women brought Alex inside the structure, and the moment he stepped into the center, he felt an unusual warmth radiating from the walls. It was as though the stone itself had a kind of energy. The air inside was different, crisper, almost soothing. The leader gestured for him to sit, and Alex obeyed, still feeling uneasy. As he sat cross-legged on the floor, she stepped forward and lowered herself to sit beside him. The silence stretched on for what seemed like hours. Alex couldn't tell if the leader was thinking, studying him, or just waiting for something. Eventually, she reached for the necklace he had been given and lightly touched it. Her fingers brushed the small object, and for a moment, it glowed brighter, as if responding to her touch. Alex watched, wide-eyed. Without a word, the leader stood and motioned for Alex to follow her. He had no choice but to obey. As he followed her deeper into the strange structure, he realized that he had no idea where this would lead. Was this the beginning of his new life on this planet, or was it just the first step in something more dangerous? But no matter what, one thing was certain. Alex Mercer's journey on this alien world was far from over. Alex followed the leader into the depths of the glowing stone structure, still unsure of what was happening. He couldn't help but feel a mix of wonder and unease as he walked. The walls of the building shimmered with a soft, golden light, and the air inside was thick with the scent of unfamiliar flowers and herbs. It felt like being inside some ancient temple, full of mystery and hidden meanings. The leader, moving gracefully ahead of him, glanced back occasionally, her eyes studying him with an unreadable expression. She didn't speak, but there was something about her silence that was almost comforting. Alex followed her through a series of hallways, each one lit by small, glowing stones embedded in the walls. The further they went, the more the atmosphere seemed to change. The sounds of the jungle faded, replaced by a soft, rhythmic hum that came from deep within the structure. It was as if the building itself was alive. After what felt like hours, they reached a large open chamber. At the center of the room stood a massive stone platform, raised off the ground. It looked like an altar, but Alex had no idea what its purpose might be. Around the platform, there were strange carvings on the walls, intricate patterns that seemed to tell a story, though Alex couldn't understand any of it. The carvings depicted people, or perhaps beings, but they were unlike anything he had seen before. Tall, graceful figures with large almond-shaped eyes. Some were holding objects that resembled the necklaces and tools the women had given him. The leader stopped at the platform and gestured for Alex to come closer. He hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward. As he got closer, he noticed that the platform was covered in symbols, much like the carvings on the walls. They seemed to glow faintly, just like the light in the room. The leader extended her hand toward him, inviting him to touch the platform. Alex looked at her, unsure of what to do. He wasn't sure if it was a test or some kind of ritual, but he could feel the weight of the moment. There was a sense of importance in the air, like everything that had happened up until now had led him to this point. After a brief pause, Alex reached out and placed his hand on the stone. The moment his fingers made contact, a wave of warmth surged through him. It was a strange sensation, as if the stone was alive and responding to his touch. The symbols on the platform began to glow brighter, and the hum in the room grew louder, almost as if the building was waking up. The leader stepped back, watching Alex closely. He felt her gaze on him, but he couldn't pull his hand away from the platform. It was as if the stone was calling to him, pulling him in deeper. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence. It was soft at first, like a whisper, but then it became clearer, almost as if the words were being spoken directly in his mind. "You are not the first to come." Alex pulled his hand away from the stone, startled. He looked around the room, but there was no one else there. The leader hadn't spoken. The voice had come from somewhere deep within the structure, or maybe from the stone itself. "You are not the first, but you may be the last." The voice continued, and Alex felt a chill run down his spine. The leader stepped forward, her eyes glowing brighter than before. She spoke in her strange language, but this time, Alex felt a different energy in her words. There was urgency, a sense of warning. Alex could sense that the voice and the woman were somehow connected, and that whatever was happening in this place was more important than he realized. He looked at her, his mind racing. "Why me?" he asked, though he wasn't sure if she could understand. "What is this place? What are you?" The leader remained silent for a moment, her gaze never leaving him. Then she placed her hand on her chest and lowered her head slightly, as if offering some kind of explanation. Alex wasn't sure if it was a gesture of respect or if it was something else, but he could feel the weight of it. Before he could ask anything more, the stone beneath him began to hum more loudly, and the room seemed to vibrate with energy. The carvings on the walls shifted, as if they were moving, rearranging themselves into new shapes. Alex's heart raced, and he instinctively took a step back, looking for a way out. But the leader remained calm. She stood still, her eyes closed, as if waiting for something. After a long moment, the vibrations stopped, and the symbols on the platform glowed one last time before fading away. The hum in the room slowly died down, and the air felt heavy with silence. It was as if the room had been holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The leader finally opened her eyes, looking directly at Alex. She motioned for him to follow her once again. This time, there was no hesitation in her steps. Alex followed, though his mind was still reeling from the experience. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had just witnessed something important, something ancient that he wasn't meant to understand. As they left the chamber, Alex couldn't help but wonder what the future held. The women had brought him here for a reason, but what was that reason? And what had the voice meant when it said he might be the last? There were many questions, but Alex knew one thing for sure. He was no longer just a stranded explorer. He had become a part of something much bigger, something that had been waiting for him. And he was starting to realize that he might not be able to leave this place without learning its secrets. The days seemed to blend together as Alex spent more time with the tribe. Every morning, he would wake up to the soft chirping of strange creatures outside, the sounds of the jungle that had now become oddly familiar. The women, who had once seemed so mysterious, had slowly begun to open up to him. Though they spoke a language he didn't understand, their actions and gestures had started to make sense. They treated him with a calm respect, as though he were one of their own. But there were still moments that left Alex with more questions than answers. He had learned that the tribe had a deep connection to the planet itself. The leader, the one who had first brought him into their sacred building, seemed to know more than she let on. It was clear that she held a special place in the tribe, almost as if she were more than just their guide. One evening, as Alex sat by the fire with the other women, he noticed the leader watching him from a distance. She was standing near the entrance of the small hut where they had gathered. Her eyes focused on him with an intensity he had never seen before. It was as if she was waiting for something he didn't yet understand. Unable to ignore the pull of curiosity, Alex stood up and approached her. The firelight danced across her face as she turned to greet him, a faint smile on her lips. Without saying a word, she motioned for him to follow her. Alex hesitated for a moment, but something in her gaze urged him forward. He knew that this was a moment he couldn't pass up. They walked through the jungle in silence, the moonlight casting long shadows across the path. Alex felt a sense of unease growing in his chest. The leader was different tonight, more serious, more focused. He couldn't help but wonder what she was planning, and why she had chosen to take him out of the camp. Eventually, they reached a small clearing. At the center of the clearing stood a large stone structure, unlike anything Alex had seen before. It was ancient, with intricate carvings covering its surface. The stones were weathered, but still seemed to hum with a quiet energy, as if they were alive. It was as though the entire clearing was charged with an unseen power. The leader stopped in front of the stone structure and turned to face Alex. For the first time since he had met her, she spoke in a language he didn't recognize, her voice low and steady. It was as though she was preparing to reveal something important, something that had been hidden for a long time. Alex didn't understand the words, but he could feel the weight of them. He stepped forward, drawn to the stone. The moment his hand touched the cool surface, a sudden rush of memories flooded his mind. Images flashed before his eyes, visions of a time long past. The planet was different then, its skies filled with strange ships, and the land was teeming with life unlike anything he had seen. In the center of the vision stood a figure, tall and regal, much like the leader. She was surrounded by others, all of them wearing the same intricate markings Alex had seen on the tribe's tools and clothing. They were standing in front of the very same stone structure, and Alex realized with a jolt that this was no ordinary building. It was a place of power, a place that connected the people of this planet to something greater. The visions quickly faded, leaving Alex breathless. He looked at the leader, his heart pounding. She was watching him closely, her expression unreadable. He didn't know what to say. His mind was racing with the images he had just seen, trying to make sense of them. After a long pause, the leader spoke again, her voice soft but filled with meaning. "You are chosen." Alex frowned, not fully understanding. "Chosen? Chosen for what?" he asked, his voice tight with confusion. She placed a hand on the stone, and the carvings on its surface seemed to glow faintly. She motioned for Alex to follow her, leading him to a small alcove at the base of the structure. There, hidden among the stones, was a small opening. It was barely big enough for Alex to squeeze through, but the leader didn't hesitate. She crawled through first, and Alex followed closely behind. On the other side, Alex was shocked to find a hidden chamber. It was filled with ancient artifacts, each one more remarkable than the last. There were small statues, glowing stones, and strange objects that Alex couldn't even begin to identify. It was clear that this was a place of great importance, a hidden treasure trove of the tribe's history. The leader approached one of the glowing stones and touched it gently. It flickered to life, casting a soft, blue light across the room. The walls of the chamber were covered in more carvings, and Alex could see that they told a story, one that was different from anything he had ever seen before. "The truth," the leader said softly, "has been hidden for many cycles. The tribe has forgotten its past, but you have awakened it." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. The truth. What truth? And why had he been chosen to discover it? Before he could ask more questions, the leader turned to him, her eyes filled with a quiet understanding. "The time has come for you to know." And with those words, Alex realized that his journey was far from over. The tribe's secrets were beginning to unfold, and he was at the center of it all. The days after the secret chamber felt different. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something big was happening, something that was just out of his reach. He had seen the stone structure glow, he had touched the ancient carvings, and now the leader's words echoed in his mind. "The time has come for you to know." He was becoming a part of the tribe in ways he didn't fully understand. The women had started treating him not just as an outsider, but as someone they trusted. They shared their food with him, taught him more about their ways, and even started using more hand signs, hoping he would learn their language. Every day felt like a new discovery, but Alex knew there was more to the tribe than they let on. One morning, as the sun peeked over the horizon, Alex found the leader waiting for him outside his hut. Her expression was serious, but there was a hint of something else in her eyes, a sense of urgency. "We need to talk," she said, gesturing for him to follow her. Alex nodded, his heart racing. He had a feeling this was the moment he had been waiting for. The leader led him through the jungle, further than they had ever gone before. The trees grew taller, and the air became thick with the scent of damp earth. It was as if they were entering a part of the jungle that no one had visited for years. Eventually, they reached a clearing, but it was nothing like the others Alex had seen. This one was more open, with large rocks scattered across the ground. In the center of the clearing stood an enormous tree, its trunk wide and covered in strange markings that glowed faintly in the dim light. "This tree," the leader began, "is where our tribe was born. It is the heart of everything we do." Alex approached the tree cautiously, feeling a strange pull toward it. The markings on the trunk seemed to shimmer as his fingers brushed against them. It felt like the tree was alive, as if it had a pulse that matched his own. His mind raced with questions, but the leader's voice broke through his thoughts. "The tree holds the memories of our people. It is where our ancestors speak to us." Alex stared at her, confused. "What do you mean? How can a tree do that?" The leader smiled, but it was a sad smile. "It is not just a tree. It is the source of our connection to the planet. The stone structures, the carvings, the artifacts we protect, they all come from here. The tree is what keeps our memories alive, but it is also what keeps us from forgetting who we truly are." Alex looked at the tree again, more carefully this time. There was something about it that felt ancient. The tree seemed to hum with energy, a quiet power that made the air around them vibrate. "You're saying that the tree remembers everything?" Alex asked, trying to understand. "Yes," the leader replied. "And soon, it will show you. You have been chosen, Alex. Chosen to unlock the secrets that have been buried for generations." Before Alex could respond, the leader stepped forward and placed her hand on the tree. The markings on the trunk glowed brighter, and the air around them seemed to shift. Alex took a step back, his heart pounding. The leader closed her eyes, her face filled with concentration. Slowly, the tree's hum grew louder, and Alex felt a warmth spread through the clearing. Then something incredible happened. The tree's bark began to peel away, revealing glowing symbols underneath. They were the same symbols Alex had seen on the stone structure. As the bark fell away, the symbols seemed to float into the air, forming a shape. The glowing symbols twisted and turned, coming together like a puzzle, until they created an image in front of Alex. It was a vision, images of the tribe's past. He saw warriors standing tall, their faces fierce and proud. They fought against creatures that were unlike anything Alex had seen, large beasts with scales and sharp teeth. But the tribe was strong, united, and powerful. The vision shifted, showing the tribe's ancestors building structures, creating the carvings, and forming a deep bond with the planet. And then, Alex saw something that shocked him. The vision changed to show a great battle, one that was far more violent than anything the tribe had faced before. Ships appeared in the sky, and strange, powerful weapons were used. The tribe's warriors fought bravely, but the vision ended in defeat. The tribe was pushed back, and the tree that stood at the center of the vision seemed to tremble. The image faded, and Alex was left standing in front of the tree, his breath shallow. His mind was spinning, trying to process what he had just seen. What was that?" Alex whispered. The leader turned to face him, her expression grave. "That was the truth. Our people once ruled this land, but we were betrayed. The invaders took everything from us, and we have been hiding ever since. The tree remembers our past, but it also carries our pain." Alex felt a deep sadness wash over him. He now understood that the tribe's history was not just one of peace and connection with nature. It was a story of loss, of war, and of survival. But there was something else, something more important that the leader hadn't said. "And you want me to help bring it all back?" Alex asked, his voice filled with determination. The leader nodded. "Yes, the time has come for us to rise again. But we cannot do it alone. We need you, Alex." The days after the vision from the tree felt strange for Alex. He could still see the glowing symbols in his mind, the images of the battle, and the tribe's ancestors fighting for survival. But now there was something more pressing on his mind. The leader's request. She had asked for his help to restore the tribe, to help them rise from the shadows of the past. He couldn't stop thinking about it. What was he really being asked to do? One evening, as Alex sat by the fire, the leader approached him again. She looked more serious than usual, her eyes filled with determination. "Alex," she said, "it is time. We cannot wait any longer." Alex stood up, his heart pounding. He had learned to read her expressions, and he knew this was no ordinary request. He could sense the urgency in her voice. "What do you mean? What do we need to do?" Alex asked, his voice steady but curious. The leader looked around the camp, making sure no one else was listening. "There is a place," she began, "a place that holds the key to everything. It is called the Forgotten City. It was once the heart of our tribe, but it was lost to time and war. The city is hidden deep within the jungle. It is said to be where the ancient power of our people resides." Alex raised an eyebrow. "The Forgotten City? I've never heard of it." "Few have," the leader replied. "It has been kept secret for generations, but now we must find it. Only there can we awaken the true power of our tribe and protect our future." The idea of venturing into the jungle to find this ancient city was daunting, but Alex couldn't ignore the fire in the leader's eyes. He knew that this was the next step, the next part of his journey with the tribe. "How do we find it?" Alex asked. "I know the way," the leader said, "but it will not be easy. The jungle is dangerous, and the Forgotten City is protected by ancient magic. We must be careful." Alex nodded. "I'm ready. I'll follow you." The leader smiled, her expression softening. "Good. We leave at dawn." The next morning, Alex and the leader set out at first light. The jungle was thick and alive with the sounds of distant animals, rustling leaves, and the hum of the earth beneath their feet. Alex had grown used to the jungle, but today felt different. The air was heavy with anticipation, and the path ahead seemed to stretch on forever. As they walked, the leader explained more about the Forgotten City. She spoke of its beauty, of towering structures made from stone, and of the ancient energy that had once flowed through its streets. But she also spoke of the danger that had led to its downfall, invaders who had destroyed the city, leaving only ruins behind. "The city was built on a powerful force," she said, her voice filled with reverence. "It was our people's connection to the earth, the sky, and the stars. That power is what made us strong, but it also made us a target. The invaders wanted that power for themselves." Alex listened intently, trying to understand. The more he learned, the more he realized how important this mission was, not just for the tribe, but for the survival of everything they had worked for. As the day wore on, the jungle grew denser. The trees twisted and turned, their roots creeping across the ground like living things. The air was thick with humidity, and Alex could feel the sweat dripping down his back. But the leader moved with purpose, her steps sure and confident. Hours passed, and Alex began to feel the weight of the journey. His muscles ached, and the jungle seemed to close in around them. But just when he thought they could go no further, they emerged into a clearing. Before them stood a massive stone structure, half hidden by vines and overgrown plants. The stone was ancient, weathered by time, but there was no mistaking what it was. It was a doorway, a gateway to something far greater. The leader stopped and turned to Alex. "This is it, the entrance to the Forgotten City." Alex stared at the stone doorway in awe. It was covered in the same glowing symbols he had seen on the tree, the ones that had unlocked the vision. His heart raced with excitement and fear. This was the moment they had been waiting for. "We have to go inside," the leader said, "but we must be careful. The city is alive with magic. It will test us." Alex nodded, his resolve solidifying. He was ready. He had to be. The leader reached out and touched the stone, and as her fingers made contact, the symbols flared to life. The ground trembled slightly, and the doorway slowly began to open, revealing a dark passageway leading deep into the earth. "Let's go," the leader said, her voice steady despite the uncertainty that lay ahead. With a deep breath, Alex followed her into the darkness, unsure of what they would find, but knowing that this was the next step in the journey that had changed his life forever. The darkness inside the forgotten city felt overwhelming, but Alex and the leader pressed forward. The stone passageway was narrow, the air thick with dust, and the silence almost deafening. As they moved deeper into the city, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. The city seemed to watch them, the walls whispering with secrets from ages past. "Stay close," the leader whispered. Her voice was steady, but there was a hint of caution in it. "This place is full of magic. It reacts to those who enter." Alex nodded, his eyes scanning the shadows. The further they walked, the more the symbols on the walls began to glow softly. They seemed to pulse with life, as if the city itself were awakening. Every step they took seemed to stir something ancient in the air. After what felt like hours, they reached a large chamber. The walls of the chamber were covered in intricate carvings, and in the center of the room stood a massive stone altar. It was decorated with strange markings, much like the ones they had seen throughout the jungle. The air was thick with energy, and Alex could feel it buzzing around him. "This is it," the leader said softly, her voice filled with awe. "The heart of the city, the source of our power." Alex stepped closer to the altar, his curiosity growing. It was beautiful, in a strange, otherworldly way. The stone was smooth and polished, and the carvings on it seemed to shift and change, as if telling a story. "What do we do now?" Alex asked. The leader looked at him with a serious expression. "We awaken the power of the city. It has been dormant for too long. Only those who are worthy can unlock its true potential. We must prove ourselves." Alex took a deep breath. He had no idea what to expect, but he knew this was the moment that could change everything. He had seen the potential of the tribe, and now he had to help them unlock it. "How do we prove ourselves?" he asked. The leader stepped forward, placing her hands on the altar. As her fingers made contact with the stone, the entire room seemed to tremble. The markings on the altar glowed brightly, casting strange shadows on the walls. The energy in the room intensified, and Alex could feel the power swirling around them. "We must be one with the city," the leader said. "Our connection to it must be complete." Alex stepped forward, feeling the pull of the energy. Without thinking, he placed his hands on the altar beside hers. The moment his fingers touched the stone, a surge of energy shot through him. It was overwhelming, like nothing he had ever felt before. The power coursed through him, filling every part of his being. It was as though he was becoming one with the city, with its ancient magic. For a moment, everything went dark. Then a voice spoke in his mind. It was deep, ancient, and filled with wisdom. "Who seeks the power of the forgotten city?" the voice asked. "What do you desire?" Alex's heart raced. He didn't know how to respond, but he knew one thing for sure. This was the test. The city was asking him to prove himself. He had to be honest, or it would reject him. "I seek to help the tribe," Alex said, his voice steady. "I want to protect them. I want to restore what was lost. I want to make sure no one ever suffers again." The voice was silent for a long moment, and Alex felt as if the city was judging him. The power around him pulsed, testing him. Finally, the voice spoke again. "You have shown wisdom beyond your years. You have proven yourself worthy. The power of the forgotten city is yours to wield." Suddenly, the darkness vanished, and light filled the chamber. The walls of the room seemed to shift, revealing more of the ancient carvings. The air was filled with a sense of peace, as if the city had accepted them. The leader turned to Alex, her face filled with amazement. "You did it. You awakened the power." Alex stood there, still feeling the energy coursing through him. It was a humbling feeling, but also one of incredible strength. He knew that this was only the beginning. The power of the city was now in their hands, and it would help them rebuild, help them fight against any threat that came their way. The leader stepped back, her expression thoughtful. "This is only the first step, Alex. The road ahead will be difficult, but now we have the strength to face it." Alex nodded, feeling a sense of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The journey had been long, and there would be many challenges ahead, but now he knew that they were not alone. The power of the forgotten city would guide them, and together they would restore the tribe to its rightful place in the world. "Let's go," Alex said, his voice filled with determination. "We have a future to build." The leader smiled, and together they turned to leave the chamber. The forgotten city had given them its power, and now they would use it to change the world.